Hello, welcome. My name is Manuel from Kata Studios. Today we're going to learn how to create this beautiful Glassmorphic section container for your website or any other section in your website with Elementor Page Builder. Okay, so this is not much of a deal breaker, but at least it adds a little bit of tweaking to your website and make it look a little more different from what every other person have out there. But first, before we get into this, let's understand the simple rules of Glassmorphism. So for a glassmorphic effect to work properly well, it needs a tiny stroke all around the glass. This actually a stroke all around the glass container to make it feel more like that. I'm going to still show you an instance of what it means. That's number one. Number two, there will be an effect in between that is frosted. This is a frosted effect, so it makes it look that way. And at least there should also be a background image or an effect, possibly a gradient in the background of multiple variants of colors to make this very noticeable. So if you're actually working with a glassmorphic effect and there is no background image that have some complexity or difference within the area where the glassmorphic container covers, it makes no sense. You're not going to notice anything at all. Okay, so these are simple rules. Make sure there's a stroke around, very tiny and not so subtle, not with a thick color. Make sure the effect is frosted, and then make sure an image is in the background. If you want to add a little bit of top layer to this, I'm going to show you what to do. See, as we are moving this out, the glassmorphic effect is moving all along with the image, like showing a kind of crossbreeding. Let it not feel like as though we actually photoshopped this into the website. You get the point. So without wasting much time, let's get into it. But before then, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to create multiple layers of beautiful and amazing hero sections so you can actually use it to spice up your work. You know, the most important part where what impresses clients is the hero section. If they feel comfortable about your hero section, everything works well for the website. So now let's get into it. Since we have this section created, no need of creating a new section from scratch, but let's still see what we can do. So first off, let's drop in everything from scratch. First, we drop in a section. Make sure you make the section full width. That's the first section. The next one, you drop in a div or a container. Okay, and this div inside, remember, we want to have a top layer content and then a second layer content in the same section, which is the same hero section. So what we do here is the div we just plugged in here, we're going to duplicate it. Okay, so we have one for the top and the other for the bottom part. Now this div, what size are we going to give it? Usually I will advise you give the width of your desktop view 1350 width. That's the best size I've measured. We can just copy this and duplicate this for this one. So we're supposed to copy this effect, copy, and we paste the style. Okay, fine. So now we have the first section and we have the second section. If you understand the rule in this, we want it to align perfectly with the header logo, and also the button at the edge. So now we have the first section created. What we need to do is to toss in our background image for everything. So go to background, select on this, and then we pick the background image which we prefer. Let's sort for that background image I created. So by the way, I'll be teaching you guys how to create this in advance. Okay, teaching you how to create hero sections and how to play around with effects like this, like gradients, creating gradients yourself. So now the positioning, we want to make it center. The fourth scroll, leave it at the fourth. Repeat, no repeat, and the display size, keep it at cover. Okay, so everything is fine from here. Next thing we need to do, we want to overlay it with a white color so that it won't be too obvious. We want it to be subtle. So overlay with white color and increase the intensity till you are satisfied with whatever color you have available. I think I'm okay with this now. So the idea for this is to make sure we stay on brand. The hero section need to stay on brand, as you can see what's going on here, and the bottom part you see what we have from here. So the next thing we need to do here is to toss in our content from here. The top content, I think we may be wasting a lot of time doing that. So let's just pick this particular section and toss it in. Okay, so we don't waste too much of time. We paste this here and we are good to go with the first section. Now, as you can notice, we don't have any spacing at the top side. So there are two ways you can do this. You can give it a padding top if you want. Some persons would like to use the margin height to extend that. But if you're creating this kind of complex layout, which you don't know what size it could be, because this is actually, as you can see, this is above 100 VH, as you can see. So we want to have total control of what we want to do. So the best practice for this is to use padding top. Okay, so padding top for here, for the section, make sure you select on section. Padding top, we give it a padding top till we satisfy what we have. Just closure a little because we are still having content taking up the bottom part. The bottom padding bottom, we might give it a padding bottom if we want. If we don't want, you can just leave it so that the image will enclose. So we will be using the second formula for this, where the image is going to enclose and we don't have this effect extra here. So we are not going to give it any padding bottom. I think that was even a mistake from that end. Next thing we need to do is to clear off all padding around this particular section, okay? The particular container. But before we get to that, let's just toss in our image so we can stay on brand. So we click on this, select whatever image we want to use. For this purpose, we might be choosing a different image, or let's still use the same image. Let's use the same image. I would have chosen a different image, but I want an image that can still give us the effect close to what we want. This can also work, but let's just stick with that. So we are good to go with that. The next thing we need to do is to expand the size of this particular container. Okay, but before we do that, let's toss in our div. Then we, as you can see, we have to create a div here which will be guiding this, and another div here which might be a different size. You can do it in different way. We can actually select on this and let's just add in our container. So this is the first container, and we are going to duplicate this container to 2. We can duplicate it. What I did previously is duplicate it to 3. This 2 was about 30% each, and this was 40%, as you can see, because we want more spacing so that this particular container or content can make more sense and they can appear in this area. So in this case, what we need to do is we can add 3, but we want to use a different formula. So we use 2 this time around, and we select on this layer, and we have to make sure it's structured to align horizontally. So we have it aligned horizontally, but this is too much for what we want for this particular space. So what do? So what we do is simple. We select on this particular container, we give it a specific size. So make it full width first, it will be on percentage, and now we are going to give it a size of 40%. And this other one, it is actually assuming 100%. So it's going to squish this till you give it a dedicated sizing. So full width, we are going to give this a 60%. So fine. You see, we have exactly close to what we are looking from here. So we are good to go with the first step, but we are not going to create that content from here. If we do so, when we expand this section, the container will actually follow up that section. So what do we need to do from here? Let me show you what I mean. So from here, we might need to give padding top and padding bottom, but let's use a different formula for this. The height, we are going to do this in pixel. Let's expand the height to whatever we want. I think this is okay. Let's expand it a little more. I think this is perfect. So now, as you notice, we have the image having 2 handles. The image is just split into 2. That is because we didn't set up the image when we just dropped the image, as we did for the one in the section. So positioning center, we want to repeat, no repeat, that fixed that problem. We want display to be cover, perfect. So we are good to go. So now if we actually trying to use this for this particular this container, it's not going to work because this is going to stretch everything to the bottom part, which doesn't make sense. So what we need to do here is to add another container in here, and this container we have to tell it to be at the top side. But while it is on the top side, we'll still need to add a padding top to give a spacing as much as this. Okay, so select on that div, which is this, and we are going to give it a padding top of let's give it a padding top enough for what we are. Okay, just play around with what you want until you are satisfied. As you can see, we have removed the bottom padding from the section. The bottom padding we have from here, which is showing the background from here. We no more have that from here, and I think that's intelligent. So we'll be fixing that in the main website. So now we have this particular container. We need to start adding in our contents. First thing is not just to add a Glassmorphic effect. Why? Because I want to show you something very, very quickly. Problem you might run into when you try to create with the code I'll be providing, the code snippet I'll be providing in the description below. So first off, we toss in a body text, which is this first, and we can possibly change the color if we want to now, or we change it later whenever we are good to go. Okay. Then the font, we can change it to whatever font we want. You can use Poppins, which is my favorite font for body text. And the size, let's make this 17 pixels or 18 pixels is okay. Let's just keep it at 17 so it won't compete with the main header text. So next thing we need to do is to copy the text we have from here, and we select on this and we paste our text. So usually I'll be expecting the client to provide you your copyright before you can proceed with the project. So after that, the next thing we have is this image section and this content. But this is a little bit tricky. What do we need to do here? If we paste in the image, if we drop in an image here and drop in another content, we can't align those ones separately without aligning this. Let me show you what it means. This is the problem most persons are facing. So we select on this. Let's select on the image that's actually appropriate. Let's select on the image right here, and we are good to go. Then the image size, usually here you make here 100%. Okay, maximum width, leave it. Go to advanced, default, keep it at custom, and adjust it according to what you want. This is the best practice for sizing image. Any image, it works on all breakpoints. So we keep this at 50. You can keep it at whatever size you want, depending on what you want to achieve, okay? So if we want it this way, and we added a star rating, okay? Added a star rating here, and we added in another body text. So let's take, for instance, we copy this and we paste it here. And we want to align this. So we select on this and we align it horizontally. See, everything is going to align in a way that we didn't even prefer it to be. Okay? And that's not what we want. This is supposed to be inside of this particular container. Okay? So if we selected on this container and align it horizontally, see what we are going to be faced with. You see, it doesn't make any sense. So what do? You need to use div to control the container inside of this. Okay? So in that case, we need a div that is going to guide everything at the bottom part, and also another div that is going to separate this one from this other one. So what it practically means is this. Let me just show you very quickly. So we are going to drop in a div there. That div, we are going to put in all of this content that is here. All of them they are going to go in here. 1 and number 2 and number 3. Okay? Usually this is supposed to be number 1. Perfect. Now we have that div. We can now control this particular content the way we want. But if we push this to the right, everything still squished like this. We are not having that granular control of having these two contents up and down and this content at the left. How we achieved this was, this content was on its own all alone, and we added another div where we added these two containers. So you see we have multiple layers of div here. To achieve this complex layout, it's just the way it works. You need to play around with multiple layers of div. Make this full width. Make sure any container you add up, you are going to create, make sure it is on a full width. Any container you add inside another content, make sure it's on a full width so you don't have issues. So place this in here, and we are going to place this other one in here also. Okay? So now we are done with that. We can now select on the div guiding everything, and we align everything to the right. And see, everything is properly well aligned. We want this particular image to be here. If you want the other one to be at the top and the other one to be at the bottom, you can easily switch it with this key, or you just use your button, your mouse to switch those. So next we have to copy this, don't miss. And as you can see, our star rating is pointed, not curved. The one we have here is curved. So I'm going to still show you what to do from there. So we place our deadline, and we notice that the image is now smaller than what we expected it to be. Why? Because the image is having a size of 50 and the container here is having a size of 100. So we are supposed to condition this container to have a size of 40, whereas our image can have a size of whatever size, maybe 60. But now let's assume this is 50-50. We divide it by 2, and this is still okay. So we are going to select on the div guiding everything and make sure everything is centered, middle aligned. And this particular container, we don't want any gap, so we want to remove all the gaps so that everything will jam together, and we are okay. This particular one, I don't think the font is okay. We have to reduce the font a little so that it can adjust perfectly well. We are good to go. So you see now that we are having stuff aligning perfectly the way we want. Okay, almost aligning the way we want. But you see, we're having extra space at the bottom part here. To fix that problem, go to your typography, go to line height, and adjust it a little. Just a little, tiny a little will make it work. The next thing, we have to go to gap and give a little bit of gapping because we can see now that it's clashing together. So next thing, we have to select on the star rating, and we increase the size of the star rating to whatever size we prefer. Next thing, we have to select the color of the star rating we want. Possibly for the brand, we can pick on this color, but usually star ratings are yellow. So we got to go with that, stick with that default pattern and we get back to container and we want to upload an SVG. We won't be using an icon library because we still find out that we have the same star rating icon there. So I actually downloaded this from, I'll show you the link. Also, I'll be making the provision of that link in the description below. This is the link, okay, flaticon.com/icon font/ dash most downloaded. So you can get the star rating from here. You can get the star rating from here. Just start search for star rating or just start search for star and you're going to find the one that most works for you. Like this is the one we used for that purpose. So click on it. When you click on it, make sure you download it as SVG. Okay, whenever you want to import it here, select on the element and make sure you select on SVG, then drag it in just as you drag in all other medias. Okay, so when we are done with that, the next thing is this particular content. We are done with it. This image is okay, perfect as we want it. So let's just check. The space between here is too much. It's too much. So we select on that container. The gap, let's just make it 10, or let's see to clearing of this gap. Let's make it a 0. Perfect. I think that is okay. So the space between this content and this particular content is too much. So what do we do there? We select on this and in the gap area, we make it 0. Let's see if that works. It works. I think it's perfect. I think it's very perfect. So select on this. I think the size of this font is smaller. Let's increase it just a little more, just one more pixel, 18. So your font of your body text should be within 17, 18, 19. Shouldn't exceed 20 pixels. So that's good to go. We are good to go with the basic thing that we need to do. The next thing we need to do is to select on this, and this is where we start playing around with our Glassmorphic effect. So first thing, let's add a padding all around to give that effect a kind of brightening. Let's give it this 300. That's too much. So let's give it a size of 30, or let's just make it 20. 30, 20 is okay. You see, we don't have this aligned perfectly the same because this particular container have a padding. So we have to clear out the padding, unlink it from here, and everything will squish in. And as we have unlinked that, we notice that the space in between this is now closer. So we get to the gap area. We can give it a gap of 5 or 7 or something close to that, and we are good to go. So that's number one. Now let's get into the main problem of the Glassmorphic effect. Just a little issue. So we're going to pick on the code which we made available from here. Okay. So this code, I'm making this code available in the comment section below, or maybe sending a link where you can click and get the code. So when you select on this, we have to go to advanced and scroll down until you see custom CSS. Click on that and you paste it. Make sure you have Elementor Pro before you'll be able to see this custom CSS. So you paste in your Glassmorphic effect and everything works perfectly well. Now you notice the problem I'm trying to point out earlier before now. See, everything is hidden at the back of the Glassmorphic effect. I was trying to figure out if there was actually a code which actually gave a Z index of 1. I see it. This is the problem we have. So I've been trying to figure this out all along. I never knew that this code was available. So the Z index here will be, let's clear this out. The Z index here will be 0, so that all content will show at the front. You see, make the Z index 0 and all content show at the front. So in case you have anything like this, the content you're having being at the back, make sure you go select the icons, go to advanced, go to layout. You see the Z index area, select on it and make the Z index 1. It will actually populate all those information to the front. But I actually find the fix and the current code will be provided you. So we are good to go with that. That's the first step. The next thing, we have to add a curve all around here. As you can see, we have a curve around here, which makes the effect look more subtle. So go to border radius and we give it a radius of about 30 or so, 25, 30. But you won't see that effect. Why? Because we need to add a stroke to actually make a Glassmorphic effect show up. As you can see, you can't even see the effect we just applied until we click on border radius and we make this solid. You see what just happened? It adjusted automatically because it needs a border radius to function. So now give it a border radius of 1. Let it not be more than 1. Then the border radius color, we can give it a white. And in the white, we have to reduce the opacity very well. Okay? Reduce the opacity very well. And that is perfectly okay. Now, that's one thing to do. We are good to go in one phase. As you can see, when we click out, we are okay to go with our Glassmorphic effect. But it is not the same effect we are finding from here. Why? Because for Glassmorphic effect to give you whatever intensity you want, you need to set a color to that background. So click on background type, select on color and select on white. Now we have on white, it still doesn't solve the problem. What do? We have to reduce the opacity to match the Glassmorphic effect intensity that you want. Okay, so we reduce this to whatever intensity we want. As you can see, it's now close to what we have from here, and we are good to go. You get the point? We are good to go. Now, the next thing, we can add a little more effects like scroll animation when scrolling, motion scroll and stuff like that. So to do that, go to motion effects in Elementor, click on scroll effects and enable the vertical scroll. I'll be bringing a tutorial specifically for this, for persons who actually want to learn about scroll effects and how it works. So as you can see, as we are scrolling up, the effect, the Glassmorphic effect is actually moving along. I still don't like the color. It's too intense, so we have to reduce it a little more so we can see the image from the background a little more. So you can still play around more with the CSS you find here, the width. You can also see the filter blur is at 50. If you reduce this filter blur to like 20, you see, just watch what happens. Okay, we didn't get much effect from there, but you're gonna see the effect more when you intensify it from the filter backdrop. You see it, see what happens there? You see it's intensified. Now let's reduce it to 10 or 5. Let's reduce this to 5. Let me show you. Fine. You see the intensity is reduced very well. So the more you increase this, the more effect you're going to find. The more you reduce it, the less effect you're going to find. So we'll keep this at, let's say, 20 or even 10 is still okay. Okay, but don't play around with this that much if you don't know what to do from here. It's just very simple. Okay, but this will make it easy for you. I just made all best practice here. Just set your color and you are good to go. Okay, so that effect actually is good enough for us. You see what we have here? We have vertical scroll. Can edit it and we intensify the speed if you wanted to speed up a little when scrolling. You get the point. If you want it to be less speed, you can reduce the speed from here. So we are good to go with that. That is what we need to do from there. You can add a link to these images, and I'm also teaching you how to create this image in Photoshop. It's very simple and seamless, very simple and straightforward. I think this intensity is too much, so let's go to a motion and let's select that again. Go to advanced motion and make sure your effect is not too busy or not too much. It's not too much of effect in your work. Just subtle will make more sense. So we are good to go. That is just how we created this particular layout. Very simple and straightforward. Very simple and straightforward. If you watch, the image in the background here looks a little bit different from the image we have from there. That's because possibly we used a different image background, or the size we applied for this is larger. That's not it. Let's play around with the image a little more. Styling. Scroll down till we find repeat, no repeat, cover, auto. This is not good. Let's say default. This is not still good. Contain. That's still not good. Custom. And we can, no, that's not good. That's not the image we use, okay? Cover, that's not the image we used. So the image we use right now is, let's sort it out, this one. But let's see if this one works. I think this is the one we used in that particular project. Perfect. Okay, you see it's perfectly well. Perfectly well. So, but the issue we have in here is that we may need this to actually be controlled manually. Center, you can say center, top center, or bottom center. Let's say bottom center, so that hand will go up a little. Just play around with images that actually, see what we're using here, images that actually have an effect from the background, and you're good to go. So that is it. That is how to create your Glassmorphic effect in Elementor Pro. And more of these tutorial lessons will be coming up in the later weeks, and I intend creating more and more for these particular tutorials, how to create sections and all of that. Make things customly from scratch. It's very easy to do with Elementor. You don't need to depend on templates or plugins or blocks and all of that. Yes, it makes things easier and seamless, and when we try to make this responsive, it becomes even more simpler for you to make them responsive. Once again, my name is Manuel from Kata Studios. I hope you enjoyed this. If you do, please hit the like button. If you're actually new here, I would like you to hit the subscribe button, where it helps me reach out to more people. Do have a wonderful day.